And one alternate, right?
Yes.
You are regular member. One alternate, okay. Betty is a regular member, right?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Just so I know who I have to seat tonight. We're live now.
Yep.
Okay, excellent, excellent. All right. I will call this zoning board of appeals meeting to order at this time. We'll seat the alternates, Al and Joe. So that gives us 5. So we are ready to go. The first thing that we have on the agenda is a public hearing and application for a variance pertaining to section 6.1, minimum lot size, lot width, and setback from all other property lines, Vulcan LLC, 100 North Shore Road.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. For the record tonight, my name is Bill Sweeney. I'm a land use attorney and a partner at the law firm Tobin Carberry down in New London. It's been a while since I've been up here in Voluntown, but it's very nice to be here tonight. I actually live just over the way in Canterbury, so I like being in this part of the state. I don't get to practice very much in it, but it's nice to be here. I'm appearing on behalf of tonight for Vulcan LLC, which is a family-owned limited liability company, and it's the owner of a pre-existing non-conforming campground located at 100 North Shore Road on Beach Pond. Joining me tonight are Tim and Christina Hollister. They're the members of the family-owned limited liability company. On behalf of my clients, I've submitted a variance application to the board for relief of certain lot and building requirements to allow for a downsizing of the campground from 3 to 2 seasonal cabins, and to allow for the subdivision of a part of the property to put one of the remaining seasonal cabins on its own lot. Specifically, my client is seeking variances of table 6.1 of your zoning regulations pertaining to minimum lot size, lot width, and setback from all other property lines to accomplish this effort. This is a public hearing tonight, and I would note for the record that we provided the required notices to abutting neighbors, and certification of that notice was provided to Ms. Lucier. I'm going to try to be brief this evening, but I am required to build a record. I'm going to try to do that as efficiently as possible. I've got some packets for everybody tonight I'd like to hand out at this time. And I'd like these to be marked in the record as applicants hearing exhibit 1 through 8. And you'll see in the front cover, there's also a map that's been included as well. And I apologize for the member who is on Zoom that I don't obviously have a whole packet for her, but we did upload to her before the meeting a copy of the map at least so that she could follow along. Tonight, both Tim and Christina are going to address the board. They're going to share some important historical background regarding the property for you and provide some perspective to the application that I think is going to be important in your deliberations. Once they've provided that information, I'm going to come back up. I'm going to discuss with you the specifics of the variances we're requesting and then the legal basis for them. I'm going to detail the hardship and practical difficulty created by the pre-existing non-conforming and physical conditions of the property, as well as the reduction of the non-conformity, the reduction of the non-conforming use that we're proposing as an independent basis for approval tonight. And so at this time, I'd like to call up Tim Hollister to give you some background. He's going to be referring to the handout that I've given you and some of the tabs.
Okay.
Tim.
Excuse me. Hi, excuse me. I'm looking for the map. You said a map was sent to me. I have an email from Taylor, but I don't see an attachment. Was it the map that wasn't clear that was sent?
Yeah, I sent a clear version. It was,
At the,
yeah, it's the most recent email in the ZBA thread. It should say 100 North Shore Road ZBA map.
I apologize. I don't see it. Could you maybe text it to me, Taylor, or could you send it again?
I can send it again.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for your service to the town. I know you're earning the enormous salary that you get paid as ZBA members. As Bill said, he's going to explain the legalities of the variance and the justifications. I thought it was important, and Christina did also, to give you the history, because there's a long history, and it should tell you why we are where we are now today and why we're making this application. And I'm going to refer to the packet that Bill gave you. There's some photos and maps that tell the story. So I'm going to cover about 70 years in about 3 minutes, so just so you're ready. And believe it or not, the start of the story is that my mother was Finnish, and she first came to this part of Connecticut in the 1930s. In the early 1950s, a gentleman named Bill Lindbergh, who was a chicken farmer who lived on Bassett Mill Road, built 7 cabins and a sauna on property that fronted on Beach Pond and North Shore Road. And he started renting out the cabins in the summer. In 1957, when I was in diapers, my parents went to Tamarack, and they heard about Lindbergh's, and they went across the lake one night and said, oh, this is kind of a nice place. It was brand new, essentially, at that time. And in 1959, they started renting one of the cabins, Cabin 6, which we also now call the Blue Cabin, because it's the only one that's blue. And that's the property we're talking about. So I only say that to say that the property we're talking about has been part of my family one way or the other for over 70 years. So the other important thing is, if you look at the first tab, the map is a map of tab 1 of your packet. That shows you what the layout of the 7 cabins in the property, which was from the early 50s until the late 1980s. There were 7 cabins right in a row, believe it or not, separated from the lake by a dense forest. You actually had to sort of pick your way through the forest to get down to the lake, and that was, so anyway, on a typical summer, there were 30 to 40 people on the property, a lot of noise, a lot of traffic, a lot of kids, a lot of fun. And I had the privilege of being there for a little bit each summer when I was growing up. And then in 1984, my parents bought the campground from Bill Lindbergh's widow, Mrs. Lindbergh, and continued to operate it as a campground. In 1989, my parents demolished cabin 2 and cabin 3 and built what we now call the main house, which is where it says 1989. So that's the main house that's there today. And now let me take you through how we got from 5 cabins down to 3. If you look at tab number 2, you'll see the photo of the day that a tree demolished cabin number 7. And just as an aside, because you gotta hear the funny asides, this was right after I inherited the property from my dad, and I just remember him looking down from heaven and saying, "It's all yours, son." So yeah, so anyway, so when that cabin came down, there were 4 cabins left. So my sister and I formed Volken, Voluntown Ken, which is the owner now, to own the property. In 2019, I married this lady here. We lived in West Hartford, live in West Hartford still today. So we started coming here on weekends, and then just to kind of help meet expenses, we started to rent out the main house and the cabins that were habitable, which was 2, for 3 to 4 weeks in the summer, just to kind of keep it going as a campground and to meet expenses. In 2021, if you turn to tab 3, we demolished cabin number 1, because that was in very poor condition, sort of off to the side, and not really part of the main property. So then when that was demolished, we're down to the current 3 cabins. So that brings us really to the future, and Christina's plan and my plan as a newlywed couple, only 6 years, is we're going to retire to North Shore Road, depending 2 or 3 years, depending on which one of us you're talking to at the moment. But the idea is to downsize the property one more time to make it manageable so we can take care of it well in the future. So in 2020, we sold a conforming building lot on North Shore Road, and that is the part of the property that's shown as owned by Net Zero Builders between North Shore Road and our northern property line. So it's this property right here is North Shore Road. This is that property. And interestingly, we sold that lot in 2020. We haven't heard from them since. Don't exactly know what the situation is. And then we have cabin 5, which is, there's a picture of that at tab number 4. And that's the one that's in the worst condition of all the cabins. And that's the one we want to take down, demolish it if this application is approved. So that would leave us with 2 cabins. And you'll see that cabin 5 is on the same lot as cabin 6. So this is cabin 5 to be demolished. That's cabin 6, which that would be the part that we would sell, basically. Okay, so there are at tab 6 of your package, there are photos of the blue cabin, cabin 6, including the interior. It's not a palace, but it's a cozy little summer cabin. And so basically, Christina and I, over the last 2 or 3 years, we've put our effort into preserving and maintaining cabin 4 and cabin 6, thinking we're going to demolish cabin 5. So then in 2023, an elderly couple from Rhode Island that had rented cabin 6 for a couple of years, so they weren't coming back, and we were confronted again with, what do we do with cabin 6? So one of the options was, always is, to put it on VRBO or Airbnb and rent it to some, but we don't want to do that. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort, and we just rather just have some nice couple take it as their seasonal property, manage it on their own, and then we have our population to take care of. So in summary, and then I'll sit down, the goal is to demolish cabin 5, put cabin 6 on its own lot, keep cabin 4 as part of the main house, and then, but maintain the property as basically a cooperative campground, because there will always be shared facilities. You'll hear Bill describe the shared driveway. We're going to put in a new well that would be shared by 2 of the cabins. So it's still going to be a campground, and that's, really the way it always has been, and I think should be for the rest of, at least when we're around. So with that, I'm going to ask my wife, Christina, to say a few words.
So if you don't mind, I have it on my phone, just a little easier. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Christina Hollister. I am co-manager of the property with Tim and also his wife. And thank you to the board for giving us an opportunity to have our application be heard. I was born and raised in Connecticut, but became familiar with this area when I met and married my first husband. We settled in West Kingston, Rhode Island, and I managed an Eddie Bauer store actually at the Crystal Ball. So it was just kind of a familiar area to me, a number of years ago, decades ago. We returned to Connecticut, eventually, where we raised our family, and I've enjoyed a rewarding career at a medical manufacturing company in Bristol since 2010. My first husband died in 2015, and a few years later, I met Tim. He introduced me to Voluntown and his property when we started dating, and we eventually got married here in 2019, as he shared earlier. So I've grown to love Voluntown, and even to this day, I get kind of just welled up with the history. It's just touching, I think. And I've grown to love Voluntown, Beach Pond, and actually, this is not in my script, so I apologize. But when COVID hit, and of course, all of us wanted to just not be around anybody, we said, let's go to the lake. And it was just a really joyful time because we were in a town that we loved and in a home that we loved. So we have 2 grandbabies, and I hope to spend a lot of time here. We do when I retire and when we retire, but we'd like to downsize the property and make it more manageable, ideally. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Christina. As my clients have indicated to you, their plan is to subdivide the existing campground property, which right now is 2.89 acres, into 2 separate lots, which are shown on the plan that we've shown you. Lot number 1 is the grade area. Lot number 2 is the remainder of the property. It's important to remember as you consider this application tonight that the Hollister family has already downsized the campground from the original 7 cabins down to 3. And then now, as part of this plan, intends to downsize it again from 3 to 2. I want to also just reiterate, there's no additional structures, building or development being proposed. In fact, what we're doing is removing a dwelling from the property as part of this project. Lot number one, which again is this shaded gray parcel, would consist of a 0.67 acre lot. It's located on the far eastern extent of the campground, and it's accessed by the existing driveway off of North Shore Road that has existed for all these 70 years. It would come through the other remaining lot and would bring you to that parcel. So that access stays the same access that has served the campground for over 70 years. I would point out that that driveway has much less traffic today than it did back in the day. There's many less cabins. There's not the families and the kids every summer. So it's actually much lower intensity as well because of the downsizing of the campground over that time. Lot number one would initially, at the time of subdivision, encompass 2 of the existing cabins, but as Tim indicated, one of the cabins, cabin 5, would be demolished. And we would propose tonight that that be a condition of any variance that you grant, that cabin must be demolished as part of the variance. The cottage to be retained on lot number 1, which is cabin number 6, is in good condition. It's connected to power. It has its own propane tank. And it was just last year approved for a new septic system that will replace the existing dry well that serves that cabin. We all have an interest in, I think, in environmental quality and protecting Beach Pond. That is certainly going to be a positive development as well. There will be a new well drilled for lot 1, and it's going to be in the location of cabin number 5. So we're going to take down that cabin, and in the area where that cabin stood is where the new well to serve lot 1 will be located. More importantly, though, and I said this in my letter to the commission as well, we would also propose that lot number 1 be subject to a deed restriction, which would prohibit year-round residency. And we would suggest, again, another proposed condition to the variance tonight, that lot number 1 have that deed restriction recorded. We know how hard things are, like budgets this time of year. We're not looking to bring more permanent residents into Voluntown, and we want to maintain that seasonal feel of the property. So that's a voluntary thing that we want to do. We want it to be a condition of the variance so the town knows that that lot's not for year-round residency. I would also note, if you've been down to the site or if you've been out to Beach Pond and you've looked at this, this property, this lot and that cabin number 6 is not really visible from any other property. It's really tucked away. The only way you even see that lot and that cabin is actually from the water if you're going by in a boat. Lot number 2, which is the remaining land, which is this right here. Lot number 2 would consist of a 2.2 acre rear lot. It's located on the western side of the campground. And again, it's accessed as well from the existing driveway to North Shore Road. Lot number 2 would, as Tim indicated, would encompass the existing year-round residence. It would also grab the other seasonal cabin. And it also has the sauna. The original sauna building would also be included on that parcel.
Didn't say sauna, but we'll forgive
It's probably the right way to pronounce it.
Yeah.
We would be giving a dedicated access easement over this lot in favor of this lot, just to have all the deeds in order. So if this lot actually sold and was owned by separate, there would be a legal right to cross over and continue to use that 70-year-old driveway. The proposed subdivision that we're showing you today, and why we're here tonight, is that we need variances before we go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, because what we're proposing doesn't meet the current zoning regulations as they stand today. The first variance we're looking for is in regards to lot size. The minimum lot size for a rear lot in the underlying rural district is 160,000 square feet. Lot 1, as we're proposing, would have 29,225 square feet, and lot 2 would have 96,525 square feet. Both are less than that minimum threshold of 160,000, and therefore we would need a variance of the minimum lot size requirement to proceed. It should be noted, and if you turn to tab 6 in your package, that we took a look at lot sizes around Beach Pond, and there are more than 50 lots around Beach Pond with structures, many of them, which are year-round residences, that have lot sizes smaller than 30,000 square feet, which is about 0.7 of an acre, the proposed size of lot one. So this size lot is actually quite consistent with the other lots on Beach Pond, regardless of what the underlying zoning regulation is. Second, if you look at this layout, you'll see that the eastern property line of this parcel is very odd. And there's an old historic stone wall that runs along this sort of S-shaped eastern boundary. This is an irregular and somewhat awkward configuration that serves as the eastern boundary of the campground today. If we were to create this lot, the width of the lot at this far northern property line is less than the 200-foot minimum lot width requirement. And so we're also asking, as our second variance, a reduction in the lot width requirement from 200 feet to this dimension to allow for the creation of this lot. If you've been out to the property or you've driven by on a boat or kayak past it, you also know that this is a fairly steep property. It slopes down from North Charlotte Road down to the pond. So we have that awkward sort of irregular shaped eastern property line, that physical limitation or obstruction. Plus we have the additional layer of the slope as well. And so we're looking for relief from that lot width just because of the odd shape. It's not squared off. It's sort of this sort of cutout area here. So that's the second variance we're looking for. The third variance is a property line setback variance. We have no control over how these cabins or the sauna was laid out. These are all pre-existing non-conforming. When I say that, they existed prior to the advent of zoning, the adoption of zoning here in Voluntown. And because of that historic and pre-existing layout of the campground buildings, when we make this division, there's simply not enough room on the newly proposed common boundary line between the parcels to provide the typically required 25-foot separation to the boundary line. What we're showing is a 10-foot separation. So we're looking for a variance from 25 feet to 10 feet to allow for this property line to be laid out where it is. I would point out that this is an issue that's really internal to the two properties. It's not like we're asking for a setback variance to a neighbor. These are actually a setback variance for buildings that are already within the campground. And we think it's a fairly modest request under the circumstances. I would note that there is the existing 20-foot wide driveway and the underlying easement. There's an underlying easement for that it serves all purposes of this property. And that will stay in place and will continue to provide access to the entire parcel. We've spoken to the Thevenet family. They own the property to the west, and the first several hundred feet of that driveway is actually on their property. We've talked to them about the proposal and really talked with them to see if they had any concerns or things they wanted. And so in addition to the existing easement that we already enjoy, we're going to be entering into an additional agreement with them to hold them harmless from any liability for our use of the driveway. So that's lot one or lot two. So either one. So we entering into a separate agreement with them outside of this proceeding to just basically say, listen, you don't have to worry about our use. Nobody's going to hold you liable for that. We're also agreeing to reseal the driveway for the Thevenets at our sole cost. We're also going to be taking an additional percentage of the cost of snow plowing every year as well. Just trying to be good neighbors with the Thevenet family. The Hollisters have reached out to all of their other neighbors. We did it before we even applied, just to see if anybody else had any concerns. There are some comments at the back of that package, some text that show that there really is either support or no other concerns by neighbors. And I think as you look through the room tonight, you can see that really is not a concern by any other neighbors. And that was obviously important to us. So tonight, obviously, this is a legal proceeding, even though we're in a conference room. So you have a legal charge you have to uphold. And I would submit to tonight the legal basis for granting the three variances that we're requesting is really twofold. First, the Hollisters inherited a non-conforming campground that is situated on an irregularly shaped, especially along that stone wall comprising the eastern boundary line, and a steep non-conforming lot with non-conforming access, serving both year-round and multiple seasonal dwellings. The extent of these non-conforming conditions presents a hardship to reasonable changes or reconfigurations of the property, to make improvements, to separate buildings, or even just to address liability concerns going forward. As I mentioned previously, and as shown in our package under tab 6, there's more than 50 lots with homes around them on Beach Pond that are smaller than proposed lot number 1. So this is going to be a project, if it's approved at the end of the day by this board and also the P&Z Commission, to be completely consistent with what's going on around Beach Pond. Second, I think what's more is, from my perspective, much more important. There is an independent basis for granting these variances that does not require your typical hardship analysis. Our courts have held on numerous occasions that a request for variances which reduces zoning nonconformities can be granted regardless of hardship argument. And that's what we're doing here. The existing use of this property as a campground is a legal pre-existing nonconforming use. The requested variances that we put forward tonight would downsize that existing nonconforming campground. And if you consider the other work that both Tim and Christina have done in years past, they've really downsized that campground over the last several decades. But just the downsizing tonight of the removing of cabin 5, that would reduce the overall intensity of the nonconforming use. And instead, we replace that with 2 separate building lots, which quite frankly, much more closely resemble the pattern of residential development all around Beach Pond. If both variances and ultimately the subdivision are approved tonight, the Hollisters intend on offering lot 1 for sale, as they indicated tonight. That potential buyer of lot 1 could use the remaining cabin as is. They could renovate it and obviously connect it into the newly approved septic system that we had done. They could relocate the cabin, lift it up and move it to another conforming location on the lot. They could potentially even remove it altogether and rebuild on the lot, but they can never use it as a permanent year-round residence because we intend to deed restrict the property. So for the reasons I've shared with you, we would ask that the requested variances tonight be granted with 2 conditions. Again, that cabin number 5 be demolished and that a deed restriction be placed on lot 1, restricting year-round permanent residency. I want to thank you for your time tonight. Myself, Tim, and Christina are all available if anybody has any questions, but we really appreciate you taking the time for us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. No, there was an excellent presentation. I love the history piece of it as well. We've heard a lot of other things that were sent out to us as well from Tyche and with regarding the nonconformity and everything else. So if we don't have any questions for these guys, I'll close the public hearing. And we can kind of discuss what our thoughts are on it. So, Joe, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the obvious concern is just access to proposed lots.
Excuse me, this is Betty. I'm having some trouble hearing what is being said at the table. I don't know if that can be addressed at all.
We can talk louder.
That sounds like a way to address it. That sounds good. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Betty, do you have any questions for the applicants?
I don't. Thank you.
Do you have any concerns on the application or the things that they brought forward?
No, but what I'm wondering is, Taylor, can you hang on to a packet for me? And I'll try to get Jack my husband down there to pick it up. Is that reasonable?
I've provided Taylor a whole package for you, Betty.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
If I could just add before you close the public hearing, I just want to reiterate that the easement from North Shore Road and the common driveway that's been there for 70 years That's a deeded easement. So that's not like a handshake between anyone. On the land records, there is a deeded easement for all purposes, serving the entire campground, all 7 cabins potentially on that property from the Thevenet family to the Hollisters. It goes back years and years and years. In fact, it goes back before the Hollisters to the Lindberghs. So, any concerns about access, those are deeded easement rights that are there.
That would have to be amended for future
In fact,
owners.
it wouldn't. It's what we call runs with the land. So whether it's the Thevenets or whether it's the Hollisters, that easement does not go away unless both parties come together and mutually agree to dissolve it. And in fact, we're doing the opposite. We've gotten together with the Thevenets and we're enhancing the relationship with them by now adding new provisions like nobody can sue the Thevenets for something that may happen on that driveway regarding these 2 lots. It was a concern of theirs. They have some elderly people in their family and they wanted that extra protection. We're more than happy to give that. The driveway needs to be resealed. And so we're going to do that. Typically driveways like that, you sort of share the responsibilities for that. But because of the good nature and goodwill between the families, we're resealing it. And then we're also going to be, rather than splitting the costs for snow plowing, we proposed to them that we'll take 2/3 of the cost going forward because we'll have 2 separate lots. So again, just trying to be good neighbors and working with people.
So in the future, though, if people weren't good neighbors, how would that work?
So both the easement that's been on the land records back to the days of Lindbergh and this new agreement that we're finalizing with the Thevenets are recorded on the land records and has the ability for either party, or now it'll be 3 parties potentially, to enforce it in the Superior Court. So for example, if someone, didn't pay their share of the snow plowing, right? If that happened, like if, Tim said, I'm not gonna pay the snowplow and the guy that he sells the house to on lot 1 doesn't, Thevenet would have the authority then to reach back into that agreement and basically go to court and have the judge order them to pay their share.
Let me say, you may wonder, why aren't we concerned about this new lot having access across our property? Because I've been on the property 70 years and that driveway has been used 10 times greater than what would be proposed here. So it doesn't bother us at all.
It's not a new driveway.
Yeah, but as Bill said, we had Jim Tevenet's family used to rent one of the cabins, but that's how long the relationship is. But, Jim came to me and said, can we formalize the relationship that's been there? I said, yeah, absolutely. So Bill drew up a driveway agreement, which I told Jim I will sign, agreeing to reseal it at my expense and, give him all protections against liability. But it makes it permanent and so there's nothing that any future owner can do except cooperate between the 2 lots. And that's the way we want it. The question was,
And if anybody else has questions, because once technically when you officially
We
close the
can't talk
hearing,
to you anymore.
I'm not supposed to talk with you anymore. So if you have a question, you're like, geez, I really want to get that clarified, ask me now because I can't talk to you once the hearing officially closes.
If you don't,
No, that was my big
yeah.
question.
Yeah. And I think it's all been explained very well, and with the well going back to where cabin 5 is, which won't even be there, so that could possibly go back to just natural wooded area.
The well
Again.
will likely be in that location,
Right.
but other than that, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah,
Is this portion of the land, what's the terrain like there? I'm just curious.
through the driveway.
this is just lawn. The slope is right here. The slope is right here. And then there's the gentleman who bought this lot wants to put his house up here, but as I said, we haven't heard from. This is the slope right here. But this is fairly flat.
do think it's good that make this so it's not a someone can be used as seasonal,
Right,
and I agree with the fact that, there's a lot of lots on Beach Pond that are that size, or less, a lot less, I lived on Beach Pond, so, I lived off the right of ways.
Sure.
And the houses down there are all on small lots,
Certainly variances run with the land, so they go, but the other point here is, these aren't gonna be absentee, at least for the short term, these aren't gonna be absentee, landlords or owners. This is their retirement home, so they have a vested interest in making sure that things stay the way they have been, because that's why they want to retire here.
Mhm.
And they don't want to be forced because of costs of paying taxes or upkeep to Airbnb or VRBO it, because that's just not what they want to do. That's not the kind of property they want to have in this town.
and there are other seasonals that are down there as well, that really aren't full-time, but people are only there through the summer as well. Any comments, questions? Concerns? But it was a very good presentation, and laid everything out for us. So with that, I'm gonna close it now. So we're all good. So do we have, discuss something about the motion together?
Sure, take the lead.
There you go.
So did we have it, there were 3 different variances that we were looking at, right? So there was the back lot and the signs with the deeded information that it could only be seasonal. Do we hear what season it is?
Not year round.
All right. And then the second was, the second and the third were both the lot sizes, right?
Yes, smaller than
Yeah,
average.
yeah, both
It
of them.
was
are
lot
smaller.
size, lot width,
And
and
subdivision.
setback to the property line. Those are the
Okay.
three. It's actually in your, under.
Yeah.
10 feet instead of.
On the application probably.
It is.
I know there's a lot of moving pieces with it.
Says it right on your agenda, the 3.
That's what I read right at the beginning. Taylor, can we just do a motion to accept as submitted?
Yeah.
For the 3 different areas. So I would make it, pardon me?
Approved, because you guys can we accept it last month?
Yes, yes. So
With the 2 conditions.
Yep. The 2, so I'm gonna have you help me with this one right here, because whether it's in the minutes or it's in the paper for the decision, it's gotta be right. All right, so I'll make a motion to accept the application for the variances as submitted, with the stipulations that lot 1 is not a year-round living arrangement. And do we need to?
Cabin 5 will be demolished.
And cabin 5 will be demolished, thank you very much.
Yeah, the access,
That's not part of the variance, so the access isn't part of the variance. For that one, sure.
I second.
Do we, I just have a question about the motion, or do we need a second first?
No, Shauna just seconded.
Okay, here's my question. Do we need to put in a caveat about the demolition
We
time?
did.
What's the caveat? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, the cabin 5, be demolished. And, hang on a second, cabin 5 be demolished, and that lot 1 is not, that's on lot 1, and that it is not year-round living.
Right, but do we need to state that it needs to be done by a certain time, or who needs to do it?
No, because I wouldn't think so. That can be left open as long as it goes, because they're gonna sell the lot anyway, and they don't know where they're gonna put a new one.
So, all right, so that becomes part of the sale process? to the new owners?
Subdivision.
Yes, part of the subdivision.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So cabin fire be demolished before it's sold?
We do that quickly.
All right, all in favor?
Right?
Aye.
I,
Excellent. So it's unanimous.
Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation. It would have been long and drawn out without everything laid out for us and what we have to do. So I do appreciate
Enjoy the rest of your
that.
evening. It's a great night. Get
Yes,
home at a
you
reasonable
too.
time. so.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys. Thank you, Devin. Appreciate it.
The left field.
You gotta go to button.
Oh, there you go. Celebration time.
There'll be plenty of those.
Thank you, Tim.
Take care, guys.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so much. Bye.
All right. The next thing that we have on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from December 2024. I can't believe that it's been that long. Did you guys get a chance to look them over?
okay.
So,
Yes, the minutes are in the packet if we want to take a couple of minutes to look through them.
So my question about that is, the people who vote on those minutes had to be at that meeting. Is that correct?
Not if they watch the video.
Yeah.
Okay, so did people have a chance to watch the video of that meeting?
I did not, I didn't know that was an option, to be honest.
No, I didn't do this.
Hey, you and Sue can vote on it.
I'm sorry, Taylor, what did you say?
You and Sue can accept it since you're at the meeting.
Sue and I were at that meeting, but
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, so it's coming.
Ed Grenier was the only one that was not here.
Yeah.
right. So do we have enough people? Did the other folks at the meeting have a chance to watch that?
Yeah, we need one motion in a second, then we're good.
Well, I think my point is are we able to vote on it? Do we have enough people?
Yes, just you and I need to do it. Since we were the only ones there and Ed's not here. So we need a motion in a second. Would you like me to make the motion to accept the minutes?
Sure, and I'll second.
Okay, very good. The minutes of the December 2024 meeting of the zoning board of appeals have been accepted, passed, approved.
Great.
We have no additions to the agenda, right? Perfect.
So I just have one quick thing. I'm just wondering so I had forgotten that people could watch the YouTube of the meeting. Would it be valuable to members of the committee to have that as a reminder on the agenda somehow if we need to approve minutes?
Yes, I can send the YouTube link when I send all the agenda materials out the week before, if we have a meeting.
Great, that'd be great. Thank you.
There's no citizens to make comments. We have no old business. Other than having that right then just did no new business. Correspondence or announcements. Anybody got anything? Anything good? Nothing? Nothing? Oh, Betty, you got anything?
No, I think I've said enough, don't you, Sue? From my perch on the couch with my foot up. Thank you so much.
That is okay. You want to get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.